We've got Alex, pronouns he, him, from Michigan, wants to talk about the start of the universe. Alex, you're on Talk Heathen. How are you doing today?
Hey, I'm doing great.
Awesome. So what I've got here on the call screen is a little bit confusing to me, and I want to make sure I'm understanding it right. So will you please tell me a little bit about what you're calling about?
This is a thing I've been thinking about for the past few weeks, and it's always difficult to explain. But if everything is cause and effect, if everything is affected by some other cause, there really is only one cause, being whatever start of the universe this is.
Right.
So the question really is, do we have free will, or is everything just a reaction to the thing that happened before it?
This is an ongoing debate with all sorts of people, and I'm definitely in the camp that we have a lot less free will than we think we do, and that's simply because you can trace any action, whatever I do in any moment, you can trace it back to what neurons were firing at that moment to cause that. Okay, well, what were my blood sugar levels like for the past hour that would have kind of brought that? What kind of mood have I been in for the past 6 hours that brought me up to that kind of decision? What has my week been like? Have I been really stressed at work or something like that? How has the last 5 years of my life gone? And what kind of mindset am I in right now? What's my emotional, intellectual journey going to be like? How was I raised as a child? What principles were I taught? How were my parents raised? What culture did we come from 5,000 years ago that led to the kind of ideals that we have today? All the way back to the evolution of Homo erectus, and like what stone tool was made that made me make this decision today, So like in terms of that, I'm definitely on the significantly reduced free will camp. I've yet to really sit down and really hash out whether I'm a full-on proponent of like zero free will whatsoever. However, I will say that people that I respect intellectually and are way smarter than I'll ever be are on both sides of the aisle on this issue, and I've heard them both speak about it. So, like, it's a good question. I don't have a great answer for you, but it's a good question, and people should think about it.
I also have a bad answer. I've been thinking about this actually a good amount recently. Have you read Viktor Frankl and Man's Search for Meaning, or familiar with him at all?
No, not at all.
So he was a Holocaust survivor he was a psychologist, neurologist, philosopher, and I'm not just conflating those two things. He's actually both. So he was talking about the idea of free will being fundamentally not a very useful one, because we feel like we have it. We are affected by all of those things that Forrest just mentioned. But what he points out was that in his experience surviving Nazi death camps, you can argue against free will, as Freud did, saying that if you were to starve people en masse, then they would all behave the same way. What Viktor Frankl points out is that that is not true, that everything that you are becomes more exaggerated in those situations. And so maybe you're going to see honorable people behave honorably in extreme situations, and they were predestined to do that, or they didn't have the free will to choose. Maybe you'll see people be horrible and evil, but ultimately you don't know how any given person will respond to stimulus, no matter how much information you have. So the way that I look at the question of free will, and this is probably a terribly unsatisfying answer, is that I feel like I have it. So that's all I can really work with, because ultimately I don't think we can answer that question, and I find more value in philosophy here for myself. Oh my gosh, I need to stop hitting that microphone. Than I do in maybe strict science and what's provable, because here nothing really is.
Yeah, I like that. I'm kind of on the same vein where like I know that the decisions that I make and the way that I navigate my way through my life is completely determined by like the experiences that I have, like the tools in my tool belt. What experiences have I had? What philosophies and ideologies have I been exposed to? What things have I studied in order to give me the arsenal that I need to attack the world around me, literally, to deal with the problems that I'm exposed to every day. And the more experiences that I have, and the more that I learn, and the more that I'm exposed to new ideas, and the more that I debate and talk and think, the more tools I have in my tool belt in that way. And so, like, I can kind of reason my way into a free will argument there, where it's like, yeah, I'm making the choice to learn the things to allow me to make better choices. And that's still, you still have the deterministic side of that I'm only able to make the choices that I've been exposed to, but also I'm taking control of that. But then a determinist would also come along and say, yeah, but like, what happen to you to learn that, to then know to make that kind of decision, to now give you the so-called choices that you're making. So like it's one of those things where like you kind of get stuck in a logic loop.
Who bullied you in third grade, and what did they smell like?
Exactly.
And are you responding to the smell in this situation?
And that's why you chose tapioca pudding today.
Exactly. You know, it's so specific.
So yeah, this is something that, as I said at the beginning, like there are way smarter people than I will ever be on both sides of this issue.
I disagree. I'm the smartest person, but I still don't know what.
So like, I appreciate you bringing it up, but I don't think either one of us are going to be able to give you a satisfactory answer at this moment.
What's your answer right now?
What are you feeling?
I don't think any of us have free will,
Mm-hmm.
but I also think that on a universal, on such a vast scale that things actually happen, giant rocks smashing into each other and suns exploding, that our concept of even doing anything, we make choices that in millions of years will be irrelevant upon like the most irrelevant you can get. So really, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if we don't have free will because, no one cares.
Yeah. I mean, you're getting into my territory now because I'm a big fan of cosmic nihilism, and like, at the end of the day, if the entire Earth was destroyed this moment, nothing changes on Andromeda. Nobody cares. You know what I mean? So like, I'm the same way in that vein. I just take a different moral arm on the end of that. I encourage you to check out, there's a really cool neurobiologist who I shout out all the time because he's one of my favorite authors. He's a guy named Robert Sapolsky. He's a neurobiologist at Stanford, and he doesn't have any social media presence, but he writes some great books, and he's done a ton of cool interviews. And I saw him on a podcast a little while ago with another Stanford neuroscientist, and he was talking about this exact thing. And he said, when you really, really, really take this to its extreme, because he believes we have no free will at all. He's on that camp. And he was saying, when you really, really take this to its logical extreme and you really think about it from a neuroscience perspective, you come to the conclusion that really you can never fault anybody or praise anybody for anything. Humans are completely blameless in everything forever. And he's like, when I really meditate and try to focus on it, I can have a few seconds where I really just am completely at peace with everybody forever. And that's wild. But even he says you can't keep that up, even though he's a proponent of this. So it's an interesting thing to think about, man. It's really, really cool. Anyway, if you had anything else you wanted to add, I'd love to hear it. Otherwise, we're going to jump on to the next call so we can try to squeeze somebody else in.